to NUS Library's Researcher Unbound series. Today's topic will be on what's so amazing about fungi. We are very heartened to know that there's a huge interest in this topic based on the sign-up rates we have over the past few months. Okay, so today we have with us Dr. Amy Chong, and I'm Jing as well. We also have a group of colleagues who will be here to offer technical support if needed. And before we delve into the main content, this is the notice of photography. So there will be some on-site photography taken, and this session will be recorded as well. And here is the copyright notice. So the main gist is no part of these materials may be reproduced or transmitted in any form by any means without the prior written permission of the copyright owner. So this explains the flow of the whole event. The first segment will be presented by Dr. Chong on fungi. So this is what you will learn in her segment, followed by a short segment by NUS Libraries. And if you have any questions, please keep it to the end because there will be a short Q&A session. So to the on-site participants here, you can just raise your hands. Okay, we'll give you a verbal cue when the Q&A starts. And to the online participants, if you have any questions, please feel free to fill the chat with your questions at any point of time. Okay, so for a more disruption-free session, we will appreciate that you keep all your questions to the end. Okay, we'll give you a verbal cue after that. So without further ado, let me welcome Dr. Amy Chong, a senior lecturer from NUS Department of Biological Sciences. Over to you, Dr. Chong.
Okay, thank you, Jane. Thank you, Library, for supporting this event. Okay, and thank you all for coming and those online as well. Okay, so my topic is what's so amazing about fungi. Okay, and then this is the outline of my talk. Okay, so let's talk about the term mushroom. How did it come about? So there are different names, right? You got the Latin, you got the French, you got the Welsh. All these name origin actually has some meaning to the mushroom itself. First of all, it's like usually mushrooms are found in wet places. So closely found together with mosses. That's why you have the French moucheron. And then you have the fly. Then some of the mushrooms actually attract flies to help them disperse spores. And then very often you will see in the field mushrooms growing, suddenly popping out. And then some of them also quite feel slimy. That's why there's this mucus part. And then the Greek for mushroom is myces. So that gives rise to the study of fungi, which is mycology. And then other terms like mycelium or mycelia. Later I'll explain what is mycelium and what is mycelia. And then when we call fungi, a fungus mushroom, is usually referring to something fleshy, that means you can touch. It's either above ground or above a substrate. A substrate can be anything, can be wood, can be your bread, can be all kinds of things. That's the reproductive structure. And usually when we say mushroom, it's usually referring to the edible mushrooms. But in mycology, it's a bit loose. A lot of the terms are very loose, used loosely. So you get an interchange of mushrooms, fungi, and all kinds of other terminologies as well. Now, when we talk about the word fungi, it's also Latin for mushroom. It's also the kingdom name, kingdom fungi. And all the organisms under this group is also under fungi. And they are very diverse. Okay, so different numbers have been proposed. So for instance, you can have 3.8 million, or you can have 12 million, or you can have 5 million. So there are a lot of numbers being given. But the thing is, a lot of these fungi haven't been given a name. So those that have been given a name is around 250,000. Okay, the rest are unknown. We don't even know they exist. Most of them haven't been seen. Some have been seen but haven't been given names. And then what's more, a lot of them can be in various forms, like this one over here on the, here. Can you all see the mouse? Can, right? Yeah. So these are unicellular, that means one cell, oops, one cell here, and then this is dividing. So this is another cell dividing. So there are 3 cells here. So actually one organism is one cell. Okay, that's why it's unicellular. Then others are multicellular. So this one is the pink oyster that my student was growing out of food waste and other materials. So you know, all the mushrooms that you buy from the market, they are actually multicellular fungi. Then another part of the confusion is if you were studying biology, you know, before the 1960s, you would consider fungi to be under the plant kingdom, okay? Because only from 1969 onwards, then fungi got its own kingdom. Okay, before that, they were lumped together with plants because people thought that they look like plants, yeah? They don't move, so yeah. But actually, they are very, very different. Now, how different are they? They are organisms that never photosynthesize, okay? They never photosynthesize. So why is this bunch of flowers here? It's just to tell you that fungi cannot photosynthesize, okay? And then what else is different is that the fungi, instead of cellulose, they have chitin. Chitin are actually very similar to insects, okay? So in that respect, fungi are actually more similar to animals than to plants. So that's why they are actually very, very different. Okay, then another aspect of fungi is that they reproduce by spores. So let me show you this very short video on how one group of fungi release spores. So you look closely, you see the smoke-like thing coming out. Can you see the smoke-like thing coming out? So this particular fungus is actually releasing spores. Okay, so not all fungi do this spore release the same way. There are others like this one, right? This is more typical. We are, you know, when we call a mushroom, this is what we call them as mushroom. When we see this shape, we know that they are mushrooms. Like if you just now see that one, you know, you don't think it's a mushroom. But they are all mushrooms under the kingdom of fungi. Yeah. So they produce spores, and then they also create this air current. Okay, this air current is not because there was wind blowing. They actually create the air current themselves. Okay. And then, okay, later I show you what. Okay. So when let's say we collect mushrooms. I know any one of you, if you are collecting, you know, mushrooms from, let's say, beside the road, yeah, those that do not need permit from NParks, then you can collect. So don't anyhow collect mushrooms from the wild because you need permit from National Parks Board. But those by the roadside, yeah, you can collect. Okay. Now once you collect a mushroom, you can actually do a spore print. So you remove the cap and then you put the cap, right? And then let the spores drop down. Then you get a spore print. Okay, so you can do this for artwork or for, you know, fungus study. Now, when we look at all the spores under microscope, this is an example of how it will look like. Okay, so this is how one example of fungus spore look like. And then they are actually very, very small. Okay, so this is about 4 micron or so. And when we look at mushrooms, right, those that we can see with our eyes, they are actually formed through sexual reproduction. Okay, they are not asexual, they are sexual. Then the asexual ones, right, if you're talking about Chinese New Year, Mandarin oranges, I'm sure you've seen this, right? All these moldy mandarins, yes, please don't eat them. So they are made by, one candidate could be a penicillium. Okay, this is one species, digidatum. So have you heard of penicillin? the antibiotic, yeah, actually it's from Penicillium, the fungus. Okay, not necessarily from this one, but actually a lot of them produce penicillin-like compounds. So under a petri dish, this is how a penicillin look like. So all these are asexual reproduction, okay, because they can reproduce very, very quickly. So when you buy a moldy orange, mandarin orange, you realize how fast they grow. Yeah, this is all asexual reproduction. Okay, next. Okay, at home, yeah, you realize things can spoil very fast. If you have the experience of baking your own bread, you realize they get moldy very fast, right? Have you all tried that? Maybe not. If you buy the commercial bread, there's a deadline, right? They tell you, okay, maybe 5 to 6 days. Okay, they have already figured out when they put the preservative, that preservative will protect the bread for about that period of time. After that, the mold will get to them too. So this is, what do you think this is? Pineapple tart, right? Yes, it was made by my sister's mother-in-law, right? And then, you keep it for Chinese New Year, then you eat, right? So we kept it. And then one closer towards Chinese New Year, look at it, it's like, oh no, it's all moldy. Then cannot eat, right? But then I wanted to keep for class. So I put it in the fridge. And then that freaked out my domestic helper. She said, no. Yeah. Anyway, so if you are a person working with a museum, you would be interested to know museum specimens are very, very old, right? Hundreds or thousands of years old. They also can have mold on them. And some scientists actually go and revive the mold spores, and then they found that they can grow again. Okay, so anything they can grow on anything, and they can last very long too. So this particular petri dish is, oops, sorry. This particular petri dish was from my class, where the students put the petri dish, the agar dish, onto aircon, right? And you can see different colonies of fungi growing. So in the air, right, basically we are breathing in fungal spores all the time. But how come we're not sick? Because your immunity, your immune system is helping you to fight them. Now, what happens when the spore lands on a suitable substrate? So then they will start to germinate and grow all these cotton-like strands, and then they will grow, and then if you want to see them under the substrate on the leaves, you can see them like this as well. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So if you see like dead leaves with all these white spreading stuff, yeah, then these are the hyphae or mycelia. Okay. Okay, next. Then if you grow them in petri dish, you will start to see them growing out, and then they grow outwards as well. So when they are feeding, they are actually feeding outwards. So you can see them growing outwards and eventually reach the perimeter of the agar. So when they are feeding, they are actually breaking down whatever substance that's in the environment, and their storage product is actually glycogen. Okay. I think that might not. Okay, now in the wild, you may have seen mushroom ring. Have you all seen this before? Yeah. So it's the same as the agar previously. So they are spreading outwards to feed. Okay. So as these in the wild, as they spread, they feed, and then they also undergo sexual reproduction. That's why you see a fairy ring. And then new ones that land can start again. Okay, as long as they have food. So where can you find fungi? You can already guess where you can find them. Basically, they are in the air. And then at home, if you use aircon, sometimes you look at the filter, it's a bit black, right? They are not necessarily dust. They may be fungal spores. They may be mold. Okay, so do keep your aircon unit serviced regularly, because you don't want the next time you turn on the aircon, then you're breathing in all these mold spores. Okay, mold spores are not exactly healthy. If your immune system is perfect, yeah, you don't get any problem, but you never know, right? Okay, then they can be found in the soil. You can find them in the desert. Some may need only very little water. Then you can find them in all kinds of environment, even hypersaline environment. That means very, very salty environment. You can also find them in alkaline or acidic environment. Where can you find this kind of environment? Basically, they could be mines, mining activity. They need a lot of chemicals to extract out the minerals. So you can find them too. Every time we flush toilets, the cleaning agents could be fungi as well as bacteria. And our food, okay? So sometimes when you read newspaper, they say, okay, food recall. Have you heard of newspaper articles of food being recalled, right? They say there's patulin, fungal contamination. Yeah, so please don't go and try and save money and drink those juice or whatever, okay? Those can be quite toxic. You can get very sick of it. Okay, then you can find them in orchids, ferns, all kinds of plants. You can also those are living plants, and then dead plant materials as well. Antarctica, recently they have found new fungi. They are found in nowhere else in Antarctica. Hot spring, right? Hot spring, very, very hot, but you can also find fungi. Even in the guts of termites, any of the ruminants, the horse, the goats, the cows, and even in our gut, there are also fungi. Now, let me show you this link on freshwater fungi because most of us will never go and look for freshwater fungi. So this is how some of them look like. So this video will slowly screen. Okay. So they are microscopic, but they are very important in freshwater systems because you have fallen branches, fallen leaves, and they help to break down the fallen leaves, fallen branches, right? So as to release the nutrients. Okay, some of them are unicellular, like just now, those that had been flashed before are multicellular, but they are still microscopic. So you need a microscope, probably 400 times magnification or more to see them, right? Some of them look very strange, yeah? So they are aquatic fungi. Okay, so these are all the spore-bearing structures. Okay, so let's continue. Oh. Before that, not recorded. Okay, so yeah, so basically anywhere that you can find a little bit of water, you will find fungi. Okay, so if you want to protect your microscope from fungi, then you have to reduce the humidity much lower to 60 plus, 50 plus. At home, right? I'm sure you would have seen mold before, right? Your shower curtain, your sink, right? So you will see them. Yeah, very difficult to get rid of them. And then anywhere where there's water leakage, you will see mold. Okay. One time I was undergoing some procedure. So they wheeled me to the operating theater. Before I got knocked out, I looked at the ceiling and I said, there's mold. And then they ignore me, right? Because they don't think mold is important. So then after that, I got quite worried in case mold spores got into my body. So anyway, after the whole thing, I told the surgeon, you have mold. Yeah. Okay, then if you all use glass slides to look under microscope, have you all used glass slides before? Yeah, those of you who have used glass slides before, sometimes you see the glass slides are not clear, right? They look a bit cloudy. So if you look under the microscope, you will see fungus hyphae growing on the glass. Okay, this is a nice version. Okay, this one I saw it from one of my new box of glass slides, brand new. Okay, it was still in its plastic seal, but when I opened it up, I saw the fungi. Now, in other instances, usually you just see some strands that like sneaking around the glass slide. So if they are brand new, how come got fungi growing, right? So they are growing basically, even when they are manufacturing the slides, it's impossible to be 100% clean, right? So there'll be some spores that will land on the glass slides. Then what are they feeding on? So there'll be coating, there'll be some dirt on the glass slides. So they are actually feeding on these. And then as they feed, if you leave the fungi growing on the glass slides and you leave it for a few years, the fungi will secrete hydrofluoric acid. You all heard of hydrochloric acid, right? This is hydrofluoric acid, HF, okay? HF can eat into glass. So when people, transport HF, they actually don't use glass, they use plastic, okay? So the HF will etch into the glass slide. Okay, then fungi also have superpower. Okay, I call them superpower. These are very soft mushrooms actually, right? And they push themselves above asphalt. So this asphalt is the road line of the road. Very, very hard, right? Usually. So these mushrooms push themselves out of the asphalt. So you can see the asphalt being raised up. So they all use turgor pressure to push themselves up. Now, studying fungi can be quite challenging because today you see them, next week you don't. They just disappear because they undergo what is called auto-digestion and then they liquefy. But not all will do this. So most of them, the soft-bodied ones will do this. They will disappear, liquefy and all that. So today you see, maybe a few hours later you don't see. Okay, but they are still underground. So what's so amazing about them? Well, like this one, for instance, we call them dead man's fingers. Okay, so these you can find them on any rotten log. They cause the decomposition of the log. Now there are people who use the same mushroom and work on wood, and then after that use the wood to make violin. And then they did a test, right? So if you're a violin player or you love the sound of violin, you will know Stradivarius violin is got a very rich sound, right? Now, other more modern violin will not give you the same kind of sound. So this group of people, they use the fungus to treat the wood, and then they use the wood to make violin. And then they did a test, the real violin by Stradivarius and the fungus modified wood. And then they asked people, can you tell the difference? Okay, actually they fool quite a lot of experts. Okay, yeah, so the fungus can change the wood properties so that it can be similar to what Stradivarius used. Now, on the medical side, this fungus, right, in Chinese it's called Wu Ling Shen, can be used in TCM to treat insomnia, trauma, or depression. Okay, so a lot of uses. Then, if you have gone to the dried goods stores, have you seen this kind of mushroom before? Zhu Sheng. Yeah, so people, you can use it to you can buy this and then boil soup, and it thickens the soup. Now, what's the use? Okay, it can help with intestinal damage, intestine inflammation. They can also help to balance the gut microbe so that you're healthy. So if your gut microbiota is not healthy, that means that too many of a few kinds of microbes, then you can suffer quite badly. Okay, so in the wild they look like this. Okay, this is a more perfect example. Now they are quite smelly in the wild because the smell is to attract flies to help them carry the spores away. Okay, so yeah, but when they make it into this form, they remove the smelly part and then they dry them so there is no smell. Okay, then in terms of, you all seen button mushrooms before, right? Yeah, and then this portobello, they're actually the same species, okay? They look different because you harvest them at different age. Okay, you harvest them at different age. Now then, have y'all ever tried, okay, do y'all like to drink beer? Nobody there to raise their hand. Okay. Or any alcohol, right? You have fungi to thank because you need the yeast. Okay, and if you like to eat bread, you also have fungi to thank because the yeast help to make bread. Okay, when they utilize the sugars, they actually produce gases, right? Carbon dioxide and all that. So that helps to make the dough rise. Then after that, you bake it. Otherwise, like what happened to me was I tried to get organic flour, organic raisin, and then put in the yeast, and then put in the bread maker. And then when I turn it on, boom, the whole house went dark. So I cannot bake my bread. So it came out rock hard. Okay, because the yeast didn't get to work on the dough. So without yeast, you get rock hard bread. Not nice to eat. Okay. Then what else can fungi do, right? Nowadays with climate change, there's a lot of carbon in the air. So most of the time we talk about reforestation, using plants to, store the carbon. But there are also fungi, the mycelia, the hyphae that's in the soil that's storing a lot of carbon. And what's more, all these fungi, they produce molecules. They are carbohydrate rich and protein rich. They sort of act like glue to bind the soil particles together. So that helps to reduce erosion by wind or by rain. So you want intact soil so that the carbon can be stored. So just now in that slide, there's arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi. So what are they? They're actually microscopic fungi. Their spore can be quite big. Some of them as big as 1 mm. Okay, that's big in terms of fungal spores. So this is a picture from my student's paper. So the spore basically will grow when there's a living root around. And then they'll enter into the root, right? Like this, enter into the root. And at the same time, those that are outside, the hyphae that are outside, will serve as biofertilizer. They'll bring nitrates, phosphates, all kinds of minerals from the soil and pass to the plant. So it's like living fertilizer provider. And these AMF, they're actually closely associated with quite a lot of land plants. Okay, about 80% of land plants have this kind of association. So what else can they do? Once the plant has this kind of symbiotic relationship with the arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, the plant can cope with high salinity, right? Changing salinity. They can also cope with drought, heavy metal pollution, or extreme temperature. Okay, so these fungi help the plants. Now, there are other kinds of fungi which also help plants. Dipterocarps are plants that if you see them in Bukit Timah, all the tall trees, quite a lot of them belong to Dipterocarps. They are also very good timber. Chengao and all that are good timber. So they are Dipterocarps. Now, they usually have association with another kind of fungi. One example is this Astreus, okay, Astreus odoratus, which we don't have in Singapore. This is Thai one. So if you go to Thailand, a lot of the markets will sell this kind of mushroom. Okay, they look like little rocks, but the Thai people love to eat them. So the study was, when you do reforestation or you try to persuade people to grow plants, they have to wait 20, 30 years before they can harvest the timber, right? What are they going to survive on? So when this Dr. Chachai Fosri, he introduced the fungus with the plant, and then as the plant is growing, these fungus will produce the fruiting bodies, which the Thai love to eat. Then they can harvest and sell. So every year they can harvest like 2 or 3 crops. So they can make money, right? By keeping the plants alive, and they can also make money by selling the mushrooms. So it's a win-win situation. And these fungi help the plants to survive better in the reforested environment, which is usually very poor. Okay. Now, I'm sure all of us who have studied primary school, you will realize that, okay, mushrooms, fungi are important for decomposition. Then that's it, right? Decomposition, yeah, no big deal. But imagine if the decomposer like fungi have been killed off by radiation, like in Chernobyl when the nuclear reactor, had the explosion, and then there was so much radiation that was released. It killed everything, including bacteria and fungi. And so decomposition basically stopped. So for decades, dead trees remain dead. They will not decompose. They just remain the same. So it's very important to have decomposers, right? We tend to overlook them because it's like dead things, okay? Better get out of my sight. But they are very, very important. So even up till now to today, those hot zone, that means with the highest radiation, things are still not decomposing, okay? Now then, there are some glowing mushrooms as well. They glow, actually they glow, some glow all the time, right? But only at night, then you see them. So when they glow, they look very nice, okay? Some may find it creepy. Now, the mechanism is very similar to fireflies, okay? Molecular-wise, a bit different. So people have used the genes to study plant activity. They have even incorporated into plants so that you can have a glowing plant, right? As well as pollution detection. So that means when you have a certain pollutant, the thing will glow, okay? So you can detect pollution. What else can you get from fungi? Now, as you learned before, fungi are decomposers, right? They decompose wood, for instance. So one of the group of enzymes is cellulase. They break down cellulose. So you can use these enzymes to generate bioethanol. So you break down the cellulose kind of material and then let it produce ethanol. So bioethanol is very important for fuel, right? You can use it to power cars and stuff like that. Then paper and pulp industry comes from trees, right? Before you make them into paper, you need to remove all the brown color and stuff. So you need to bleach. So normally people use bleach, right? Your normal bleach. But it's very damaging, right? What do you do with the bleach after that and all that chemicals? So people have also got the enzymes from fungi and use them to treat the wood so that they become white, and then you can use it to make paper. Municipal waste management. So there's all these, every time we flush toilet, all kinds of things go down the toilet bowl and into the sewage treatment plant. Sewage treatment plant has to go very fast, right? 8 hours is about the max. So a lot of things don't get broken down, right? So if you have more fungi, then they can deal with all the medicine that we take, all the solid waste that we take, right? So whatever that's treated will be cleaner. Then our Samakau landfill can last longer, okay? Now, when you buy laundry detergent, then they say whitening, clean better. They actually have enzymes incorporated into the detergent to get rid of the proteins and all those things so that you clean your clothes faster. Do you all like to wear stone-wash jeans? You all like, yeah, it's much softer, okay, and it's very comfortable. So stone-wash jeans in the old days were using stones to really like rub the jeans or do friction kind of thing. Then they found that if you apply fungal enzymes to treat the jeans, you can soften them as well so that it's easier to wear, and you also use much less water. So environmentally wise, it's much better. Okay. What else? There are lots more. Okay, you can get rid of heavy metals. So let's say a piece of land is contaminated with heavy metals. So you can put fungi there. The fungi can absorb the heavy metals, and then after that you remove the fungi. Then that piece of land becomes clean, right? Plastic degradation. Quite a lot of the mold can actually degrade plastics. So you get rid of plastics. Plastics is a big problem because if they hang around in the environment, they slowly release methane. And then they also accumulate other chemicals that eventually go into the food chain. We are basically absorbing, breathing in, drinking in, consuming microplastics. So if fungi can break them down completely, then we won't be slowly poisoned by plastic. Now, plastics can also take in persistent organic pollutants. So every time when we burn rubbish in the incineration plant, there's persistent organic pollutants being produced. So if the fungi get to work on them, then they are much cleaner. Other examples of persistent organic pollutants will be your pesticides, your herbicides, those that are used to clean or remove things, and they are very persistent. Then all the pharmaceutical drugs that we take, a lot of them cannot be broken down unless you put fungi to them. When we buy clothes, many of our clothes are dyed with synthetic dyes, and a lot of them cannot be broken down. So if you apply fungi to them, yeah, they can do the job. So now let's come to health benefits of eating fungi. So our colleagues from psychological medicine, biochemistry have studied, this was a 10-year study. So they asked the participants to take, weekly 2 standard portions of any kinds of mushroom. And then they really study them for 10 years. And then they find that they actually reduce their mild cognitive decline by 50%. So eat more mushroom, okay? And then if for some mushrooms, right, some have been treated with UV. So actually they produce vitamin D. So when you eat this kind of mushroom, you also get the protection from vitamin D. So vitamin D is important for immunity, right? So it's, when you eat all this, it helps you with your overall health, okay? Strengthen your immune system. And mushrooms have 0 fat, unless you go and fry with oil or butter. That one, no good. Okay. Then tempeh, right? The humble tempeh is actually very, very good too. So there's anti-diabetes, help with cognitive function, help with reducing your cholesterol, help with anti-tumor, anti-cancer, anti-aging, anti-hypertensive, that means high blood pressure, help to lower your blood pressure, and also help to improve your gut health, and antidepressive. So lots of uses for this humble tempeh. Okay, so you can start consuming tempeh. Not that I sell tempeh, but you can go to, our canteen, buy the tempeh. Of course, you don't fry all the time. If you fry all the time, then all these are negated. Okay. Now, if you are into fashion and you want to be environmentally friendly and you don't want to use cow leather, you can actually consider using mushroom leather. Okay, there's mushroom leather. So you can use, mushroom to make their mushroom leather. Okay, so they really look a bit like leather. Okay, so yeah, then it will be helpful to the environment as well as assuage your conscience. Okay, yeah. Then, okay, warning. There are all kinds of things that attack us, right? There's bacteria, there's fungi, but there are very few antifungal drugs because they are too similar to us, right? Fungi are very similar to us, very similar to animals. So it's quite hard to develop antifungal drugs. And usually pharmaceutical companies make drugs that people will take all the time, right? Like blood pressure medicine, you have to take every day. Whereas antifungal drug is like after the infection, you don't need to take anymore. So in that sense, it is not money making. So development wise, first is difficult. Second is not worth their money. So as the planet warms, you get more humidity, fungi are going to be thriving. Okay, so we are likely to get more fungal infections. So yeah, if you're listening in from a medical perspective or drug company, start developing antifungal drugs. Okay, we need them. Okay, so do you all agree? Fungi are amazing. You all agree? Yes. Yeah. Okay. So fungi are amazing, right? But you must also treat them with respect, right? Because they can also kill. Yeah, the wrong kind can kill us. So if you want to, help the environment, help reduce carbon emissions, conserve biodiversity, yeah, we need to understand fungi. Okay. And if you want to learn more, Singapore's Facebook page, Mushroom Spotters bracket Singapore, you can join the Facebook. You can take our courses, right? Fungal biology I teach. Medical mycology is taught by Yong Feng Mei. Plant micro interaction is taught by my colleague here, Dr. Chang Ying. Then if you want to buy this book, I heard from Serena, the main author, there are 70 copies left. So once the 70 copies are gone, you wait for a number of years for the second installment. Okay, now I'd like to advertise Festival of Biodiversity. We have a booth, plants and fungi there, and there are also other booths featuring all kinds of other organisms. So if you want to learn about biodiversity, do go and visit. It's coming Saturday and Sunday. Okay, you'll be there, we'll be there all day. Okay, thank you very much. Oh, okay,
The Q&A was.
okay, sure.
Okay, I will proceed with the library segment first. Dr. Amy will be looking through the questions in the meantime. All right, so the next segment is on biology resources in NUS libraries. So when I say biology, right, it means a lot of subdisciplines under it. And this includes biomedical sciences, ecology, evolution, as well as biodiversity. So these are the research domains supported in NUS, and that's how we try to align NUS libraries collection to meet the needs of our NUS community. All right, so I know there are literally tons of resources out there. Let me just hide the control. Okay, but the critical question is, do you know exactly what are the resources out there? Okay, what are the different types of resources out there? Okay, that's why we have this subject guide, specially catered to biological and life sciences students and researchers, so that you get an overview of selected resources to support research and assignments. Okay, so let me just go straight to the website so that you can see what's available there. All right, so you can see there are many tabs there, and each of them refers to a resource type. Okay, and while a lot of these tabs actually bring you to NUS Library subscribed resources, okay, you can see two particular types here. Okay, we have the internet resources and open educational resources. So these are actually open access platforms that allows members of the public to look at the resources available out there as well. Okay, so if you are interested, you can just scan the QR code for now. Okay, we also have the URL stated there. In fact, if you're actually doing research in other disciplines, such as business, arts, social sciences, medicine, okay, you can actually go to this parent URL here, which is highlighted in pink. Okay, this will give you a whole list of subject guides created by our librarians. Okay, so I'll just give you about 5 seconds to scan the QR code if you're interested. Okay. And the second one that I would like to highlight okay, would be this digital library called Biodiversity Library of Southeast Asia. So this is a library containing digitized materials from the Liechtenstein Natural History Museum as well as the NUS libraries. Okay, and because many of these resources inside, okay, they are very rare and historical. Okay, very often you don't see all these resources in mainstream databases and even search engines. So if you want to do research on biodiversity literature on Southeast Asia, okay, you are strongly encouraged to consult this library alongside some of your usual go-to places. Okay, if you have some search engines or databases in mind when it comes to this kind of research, okay, you can actually supplement it with this digital library as well. So what's more is available open access, so members of the public can actually make use of the resources inside. So let me just give you about 3 seconds to scan this QR code. Same thing, okay, if you're interested in other sub-collections within this digital library, okay, which also includes old newspapers, Peranakan collection, law collection, etc., okay, you can actually visit the parent URL, which is digitalgems.nus.edu.sg. Okay, so I think you're all done. Let me go to the platform where you can see more things there. Okay, so I just did a brief search on fungi, okay, and I have 400 plus resources there. If you look at some of the results here, you can see the publication can date as far back as 1919, okay, and 1900 as well. So I have books on fungi from Singapore and Penang, okay, and other related contents as well. Okay, so the retrieved title can be as old as 1882. Okay, so you can see how precious they are. Okay, so if you are doing some historical research, do look out for this platform. It's Biodiversity Library of Southeast Asia. So going back to the slides here, okay, I would like to take 1 to 2 minutes to talk about NUS Library's placemaking matrix. How many of you have heard of gimbap making workshop in NUS libraries? How many of you have been to one? I can see some surprised faces, okay? You cannot relate kimbap making to library, right? In fact, we had 3 of these sessions since 2 years ago, yes. And we also have talks. How many of you heard of a civet cat talk, leopard cat talk, otter talk? Okay, the otter's talk will be taking place later this week. Okay, so all these interesting programs are actually organized by one group within the NUS libraries, and that is placemaking matrix. So this is our aim. We want to bring meaning to library spaces and beyond, and to meet diverse needs of the NUS community. So what we will do is we will collaborate with partners, okay, and we are not talking about NUS staff from different faculties and units. We're also talking about students, okay, across NUS. So these are a few of the aims that we try to achieve, but on the whole, we just want to contribute to a richer NUS campus experience. Okay, so if you share the same vision and you have some ideas in mind, okay, please feel free to approach us. Okay, we'll be glad to sit down and have some idea bouncing with you. Okay, so perhaps some collaborations can be sought. Okay, so this is the time for Q&A. I think we have one question for now. Okay, more questions will be coming in, I suppose. Will Dr. Chong be ready for these questions?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so here it begins.
Okay, let me answer William's question first. He asked, how do you categorize mushrooms that grow beneath the soil? There are actually a huge diversity of fungi, so it's quite hard to categorize them. So if you are talking about even the ones that you cultivate for food, everything starts from the ground first, inside the substrate. So you can't really categorize them as such. And there's a lot of diversity in the soil. Many of them are microscopic, some become your fruiting bodies and stuff. So can't really categorize because it's huge. Okay. So another question by Cecilia. Cognitive decline is just any mushroom. It's not linzi. It's any of the mushroom that is sold in the market. So all of you can eat mushroom and stay healthy. Okay, any on-site question? I cover all the yes.
What is the difference between hyphae and mycelium?
hyphae and mycelium. Hyphae is like after the spore germinates, the first strand that comes out is hyphae. Then as more and more come out, they start to form structure. One colony is called mycelium. Mycelia, so imagine if you are thinking in terms of a cotton wool, right? One strand of the cotton wool is hyphae. The whole bunch of cotton is mycelium.
So mycelium consists of hyphae.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just now you said that the mushrooms can be used to clean up heavy metal contamination, and then we can remove the mushroom afterwards. What do you do with the mushroom that has, I think, that's broken down and absorbed the heavy metal?
So if you want, you can even kill the mushroom and then purify and extract the heavy metals. Yeah. So, I mean, heavy metals are naturally found in the environment. And in fact, we do use heavy metals for industrial purposes like solar panels and stuff. So you can actually extract the mushroom sequester or store the heavy metals. Then after that, you kill the mushroom and then you extract the heavy metals. Then that will be pure form. And then you just concentrate them and make them into whatever you want to make. Yes, you got the question.
Yeah, I got to answer the question. Thanks, Kelvin. Should I just shout out?
Yes.
Okay, so the first part is that to say environmental impact assessment in Singapore consider fungus. That's the first part.
No.
And the second part is there's the knowledge of mycorrhizal fungus or mycorrhizal network in the forest inform the forest harvesting in Southeast Asia context.
No.
No.
Yeah. Unfortunately. So because mycology is actually an old science, right? But in Singapore, we don't have many mycologists, and the previous mycologists all retired or given up mycology. Yeah, so very few mycologists are practicing their science in Southeast Asia. In Thailand, there are more. In Indochina, there are more. Malaysia got a few, but yeah, in general, all the biodiverse places have very few mycologists, right? Because first, funding, there's no funding, okay? So if we want to think about conservation, protecting the environment, we need to first get people interested, teach them in undergraduate level, give them opportunity to do postgrad, and there must be jobs for them, right? So it's many level of problems that need to be solved.
So the first step is to join Dr. Amy Chong's fungal biology class. Any more questions from the floor?
Yes.
You said that fungi which live on the glass, they excrete hydrofluoric acid. But in order to do that, they need to collect fluorine from somewhere.
Correct.
From where?
So there are fluorine that are in the environment, contaminants, okay? Contaminants, even the fluoride, they are present in tap water. Yeah, so yeah.
Fine, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, yes.
You mentioned about the carbon capturing properties of mycelium and algae, right? I'm actually quite curious about the future of, say, energy capturing or carbon capture using this kind of technology. Where do you think this would be us?
Where do you think what?
How developed is this kind of technology, and do you think that kind of technology will help with increasing like global warming and like the emissions?
The technology can be developed further. There are technologies, but it's not that developed for carbon capture. But in terms of reforestation, keeping forests alive, that helps, right? But again, many people don't even know their plants, so reforestation require your knowledge about plants, right? So then next level is understanding below ground what's happening. What are the fungi that help with the plants? Now, my dream project is to grow mycelium feeding on some waste product, then get some solar heating capacity and then just kill them. And then after that, let them remain intact. So you can constantly build on this carbon sequestration, right? You just let it die and then remain dead, don't decompose, that's fine, right? Then there's all that carbon captured. So yeah, you can, right? NUS can exhibit this like, oh, carbon capture in progress. How many kilotons of carbon is being captured? Yeah. How difficult it is to identify fungal spores to family genus level. If you're very familiar, yes, you can identify to family, some maybe to genus, but species definitely cannot. So you need to do molecular work and culturing work. Yeah, and all the microscopic work. Yeah.
We still have a bit more time. Oh, okay. So one more question coming up.
Hey, thanks for the talk. I just wonder, is there a banking facility that keep the spores for all the useful fungi in the world? Just like Kew Garden keeping the seed of all the plants.
In Kew, they have a fungal collection. There's living collection also, right? Culture collection. Then in Europe also, there are a few culture collections. NUS used to have a culture collection, but since Professor Tan Teck Kun had to close down his lab, so all the culture were gone. Yeah. So maybe Dr. Chang Yin can start a new culture collection.
I have over 100 strains in my lab. Working on it.
Yeah, so yeah, we need to start a culture collection, but yeah, need a lot of space, a lot of manpower, yeah, and maintenance, yeah, to keep them alive. So in A-Star, they have a culture collection of fungi as well as many other organisms. The fungal collection can be, you can request to study them. So basically they were kept as a culture and from different habitats. So you can request to study them. In terms of cultivation, yeah, you just have to try all. So many of them, we don't really know what they can do. In terms of food, it's the macrofungi, that means those that we can see, those that is known to be edible. So you just need to practice growing them and then optimize the whole process and then sell and make money. So it's very important to, the business must be able to sustain so that you can continue the business, right? Yeah. So fungi can also feed on fungi, so you must make sure your farm does not get fungal contamination. So hygiene is very important. I don't know whether you have encountered contaminants from fungi. Yeah. Any more
I
questions?
think we can afford to have one last question. In the chat.
Yeah, I'm answering those in the chat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any more? Last chance, yes.
Last chance.
2 last chances.
Oh, you can go ahead.
Do you think that a culture of mushroom foraging can be about that Singapore? Because I feel like a lot of us are mushroom like future age. Alison can eat or not.
And can joke and look, don't go and harvest. Okay, so Singapore is very small, right? I know there are people who poach. They see a medicinal mushroom, then they just help themselves. Okay, so my suggestion to people who are already poaching, please stop. Okay, the reason is fungi can be medicinal. Fungi can also absorb whatever stuff that's in the environment, right? The heavy metals that I mentioned before. So if you just harvest from the wild, in Singapore, our soil is quite contaminated because there are illegal dumping. There are people who just dump whatever that they can't get rid of, and then they just dump it. So these things that are being dumped, actually you can see them. You can see like suddenly, how come got so much plastic and stuff in the environment? So these are illegal dumping as well as littering. So fungi will sequester these. So although that mushroom may be medicinal, you could be eating all the other poisons as well. So please don't go and harvest from the wild. Okay. And then you can go around Singapore, go and look at mushrooms, appreciate them, but don't go and collect them. Right? First, not good for eating. You don't know what you're eating. And many of the mushrooms look very similar. You can be poisoning yourself. Literally can die one. Okay, really can die one. If you eat 1, 2, 3, 4 stir fry, you can't tell because they all taste quite good, But after that, it destroys your kidney, your liver, your whole system. First, you get sick, right? You vomit, you diarrhea, then you sort of feel better. Then you thought you are recovering. That's when your liver dies, your kidney dies. And then if you go to hospital, our hospital are not familiar with mushroom poisoning. I'm not so sure whether they are familiar, but most likely not that familiar. So if they don't know, you are too ill to tell them, then they don't know how to treat you. So it's a serious warning. Don't go and collect mushroom and eat, especially those that you think, hey, this look like an edible one, then go and eat. Please do not do that. Okay? Yeah. So yeah, don't anyhow go and harvest. Okay, you have a question?
There was a session about fungal infection of human, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder, could you expand on the section of fungal infection of plants or crop, where any plants, if that's another big concern. Fungal disease for the plants.
Big concern, right? We eat rice, many of our crops. Once you have a monoculture, right? Even the oil palm, we get all our vegetable oil, palm oil, right? You go Eco Rice, the oil they use are mainly palm oil. Your shampoo, your shower gel, your shaving cream, all have palm oil. Now, because of monoculture, right, to be productive use of the land, easier to harvest. Once you have a monoculture, you're inviting problem, right? Trouble. The fungus will say, wow, so much food concentrated in one small area. Small is relative. Then they'll attack, right? And then with climate change, the plants are stressed, so then they are more susceptible. So we need people to study the fungal diseases, bacterial diseases of plants, as well as the plant people to breed plants that can overcome all these disease attack. So it's not just fungi. Fungi and plants are very, very closely related. So you need both groups of people. So if you are thinking about an area for research, you can go into plants, you can go into fungi. But don't just go into AI, right? All that computing, you still need to eat, you still need your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, so you need to produce food. So you must study the diseases that affect your food. Okay? So this is the example.
All right, so let's give ourselves a round of applause again to Dr. Amy Chong for this insightful talk. Okay, so we haven't ended yet, okay, because if you look behind you, there are a lot of things going on at the atrium. Perhaps Dr. Chong can actually explain to us what the fungi exhibition is.
Okay, so later when you go out, you will see posters, you will see a lot of things on the tables. So there are 40 creative assignments done by my student from my fungal bio class. So as you look at them, you will learn something about fungi that I may not have covered, okay? Very likely not have covered because there are so much to cover. And then there are books out there, so you can also take a look. Yeah, then you can also do photo booth, and there's this live quiz. Yeah, the books out there. Yeah, it's okay. No need to
No,
mention.
I would like to highlight that one of the books displayed was actually co-authored by Dr. Amy Cho. If you recognize the book cover, you will have known that it was mentioned earlier on. So before you buy the book, you may want to glance through. Okay, there are a lot of good info inside. Okay, and the good news is we actually have 2 copies of the book in NUS libraries for loan. Yes. Okay, so I'll explain a bit about the photo booth. So you have a chance to actually take photo with a mushroom, okay, via a virtual background, okay, and you can actually send the photo to yourself. Okay, so all this is free, okay, so just feel free to actually DIY via the photo booth behind you. Okay, and we also have a live quiz here. Okay, we actually have a little something for you. You just have to answer one fungi related question. Okay, this can span across sciences, entertainment, fashion, general knowledge. Okay, so just one question, whether it's right or wrong, you get a little something from us. Okay, it's definitely not mushroom cooked by me because it becomes inedible by the time I get it out from the pan. Okay, so I'm sure it's something that you like. Okay, so please feel free to drop by at the booth behind you for that live quiz session. Okay, so if you want to get more updates about other events organized by NUS Libraries, please feel free to follow us on social media. Okay, to the NUS community members, you would have your dose of announcements from the NUS Libraries via the email. So do keep a lookout for email announcements from us. Okay, and lastly, okay, we greatly appreciate your response via a survey form here. Okay, you may want to actually fill in and tell us how you feel about the program. Okay, if you think that you are doing a good job, please give us a thumbs up. Okay, through the chat or through the survey form here. Okay, so we'll just give you a few seconds. We'll be flashing this for the next 2 minutes. Okay. And any last words from Dr. Cho?
Yeah, enough.
Mushrooms are great. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. And thank you to the online audience for all your questions and comments. We greatly appreciate that. Okay, so online participants, you haven't missed a lot of the action yet because my colleague has actually pasted the quiz, the remote version of the quiz, so you can test your knowledge via the link given. Okay, and the survey link is there. Okay, and to those who missed the book display later on, okay, we will also disseminate a list of the book titles that were on display later this afternoon. All right. So to those who are done with the survey, please proceed to the space outside. You will be able to see a lot more over there. Okay, and last of all, have a good week. We will see you in campus Valentine's. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,